Welcome back to the news at 10. The federal government has directed all electricity distribution companies in the country to patronize local manufacturers of meters and transformers. The decision was reached at a meeting between officials of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, and the Electricity Meters Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. The director in charge of industrial development said the government is working to provide funds for manufacturers to boost the local production of meters and electricity transformers.
We found that the products are competitive. There are based on issues where the ministry will address to enable them to be competitive. It's bundling of funding, but if we can make available to them more interest funding to assist them being able to produce the products competitively. So we have arranged this together with the Ministry with the NEC. We are collaborating with them since they are the regulatory body for electric distribution.
Well, the face of transportation in Anambra State appears set for change as the governor, Willie Obiano, has launched a state-city cab scheme beginning with 200 cars. The flag-up ceremony, which took place at Dr. Alex Ekweme Square in the state capital, Awka, also featured the passing out parade and swearing in of cadets of the Anambra State Traffic Management Agency and Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra. Launching the programs, the governor says his administration is determined to drive economic activities.
Uniformed men and women of the Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra, otherwise called OCHA Brigade, and the Anambra State Traffic Management Agency, ready for their formal inauguration at the Alex Ekweme Square in Awka. Today's event commences with the national anthem. Next is the inspection of the guard mounted by the men and women of the two bodies. The coordinator of Anambra Economic Think Tank, Mr. Macaulay Atasie, and the State Commissioner for Transport, Mr. Chuma Mbun, explained the significance of the day's event.
It is important that we find creative and effective ways to bring back the culture of orderliness and discipline, as was the case when the two mentioned initiatives were made. Now, like possible of the president, today we have our fifth program, 5 training duties and major difficult work. We think a program that goes back to the cycle to ensure that this standard will be reduced in order to maintain the business of beyond.
It's time for the governor to explain the purpose of the initiatives.
I think that this standard initiative will foster a cleaner, healthier, and more orderly Anambra in terms of order and recognizing and acknowledging and effective persons will ensure becoming productive.
The high point of the occasion is the launch of the city cabs, which the governor says is aimed at empowering the youth. With the kick-off of these initiatives, the vision of making Anambra clean and orderly, reducing unemployment, promoting efficient transport system, and increasing the state's internally generated revenue is turning to reality.
The bottlenecks associated with tax payment may become a thing of the past as the Federal Inland Revenue Service has introduced the e-filing system. The acting executive chairman of the FIRS, Kabiru Mashi, stated this at an e-filing sensitization workshop in Lagos for players in the sector. He also commended the Federal Executive Council for granting approval for an integrated tax administration system, which he says will transform the tax process in the country.
Ensuring that there will be displacement.
The issue of taxation is on the table and stakeholders are here at the instance of the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Thank you for coming.
This e-filing sensitization workshop is to intimate taxpayers and collectors on how this platform works.
We wanted a robust platform for easy access to other frontline organizations in the country and make processing of information
and reporting quite easy.
Participants are taken through a presentation session and steps on how to run their tax returns on the e-filing platform.
The first one you have in there is the CGT, followed by the company income tax, followed by the education tax, and finally the value added.
The Integrated Tax Administration System, ITAS, is designed to re-engineer tax processes and automate tax administration in the country.
Human interaction of a tax officer will be reduced to minimum point. At that point, the corrupt practice will be reduced, and any taxpayer that is not filing what should be filed can be seen.
Here, the project manager alongside other participants speak further on this initiative.
E-filing is to bring tax compliance to taxpayers' comfort zone. You don't need to travel to Maiduguri to go and file return. Stay at home, connect to internet, and then file your return.
Most of us have been clamoring for an improvement in our tax administration system, and with e-filing coming on board, we see ourselves moving towards the direction of the developed countries. Even though we're starting, but I believe we can get there one day.
With the introduction of the ITAS regime, expectations are high that default in tax payment as a result of the cumbersome process involved would now be minimized. Chris Elams, Channels Television News.
Welcome to Business News. The Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Okonjo-Iweala, says the fall in the price of shares at the local bourse is not a bubble burst, but a quick reaction to macroeconomic shocks. And Mr. Iweala explains that when prices of oil steadies, the capital market will stabilize.
Is not in a bubble by any means. It has reflected some macroeconomic shocks that we're seeing, and really we believe that it's a question of geopolitics driving geoeconomics, and it's being reflected in our markets. So to that extent, I would say our market was quick to reflect it, and we believe that as you begin to see certainty in oil prices, you would see more stable currency, which will reduce the pressure on the equity markets. The market typically does not like uncertainty. So as we begin to solve some of those problems and see certainty, you'll see the market come back. The market operates in cycles. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down. That's the nature of the market. And that is why we tell people that when you're going to invest in the market, you must take into consideration the risk that is inherent in participating in the market, and you must appropriately manage that risk.
Well, staying with the equities market, the BS dominated activities at the local bourse this week as key indicators failed to record a single bullish session. The benchmark index declined by 7.42% to 30,763.38 points, its lowest value since 17th of January 2013. Market capitalization also depreciated by 7.42% to 10.15 trillion naira. Market breadth was poor as there were 68 losers to only 10 gainers, compared with 23 gainers and 49 laggards recorded last week. Transcorp, Champion Breweries and Mansell Insurance were the top 3 losers for the week. On the advances list, eTransact, Air Service and Wema Bank all had gains of less than 1 naira each. At the end of the week, a total of 1.81 billion shares, valued at 28.91 billion naira, were exchanged by investors in 20,677 deals. Nigeria's forex reserves have shared about 17.5% within the year. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's website shows that the reserves, which stood at $43.5 billion as at the beginning of the year, have dropped to $35.74 billion as of the 12th of this month. The reserves began a steady decline in October as the central bank increased its defense of the naira, which has fallen 12.1% against the dollar this year, owing to declining global oil prices. Meanwhile, lending rates are expected to ease below 20% on average next week, owing to Treasury bills maturities of 190.92 billion naira and possible cash flows from budget allocations to government agencies for the month of November. Rates rose to 42.5% on Friday, up from 30% last week, following a large central bank withdrawal to meet banks' cash reserves requirement on private sector deposits. The bank has mopped up 868 billion naira from the banking system over the last 2 weeks to meet this obligation. The balance that lenders hold with the Apex Bank closed at a debit of over 100 billion naira, compared with 45 billion naira last week. The secured open buyback traded at 40% when compared with 30% last week, while overnight lending closed at 45% as against 30% last week. And that's a wrap on business news. Harriet will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Martha. Next on the news at 10, Nigeria's Golden Eaglets regroup in Abuja ahead of the 2015 African Cadet Championship in Niger. That's on Sports News. Please stay with us.